Greetings, and welcome to this video. I'm your host, Chroma Automatic. Today we're going to be discussing the lovely, short but sweet gem that is Spider-Man Miles Morales. As always with these videos, I'm going to remain spoiler-free as to not give away any big story-specific aspects and just kind of focus on the game in its entirety. And another note, if there is something in this video that I did not mention, it's either because I didn't have a problem with it, or it wasn't something that stuck out enough for me to mention it. As far as gameplay goes, it feels extremely familiar, of course, because it's very similar to Spider-Man PS4. It did play differently though, however. It wasn't the exact same thing as Spider-Man PS4. This game had its own feel to it. For starters, the traversal, for some reason, felt a lot better. It felt a lot more fluid, and it felt a lot better to swing around in this game than it did in Spider-Man PS4. And I even went back to play like the remaster version on PS5 because I got the Ultimate Edition of Miles and got the remaster. And yeah, Miles controls a lot better for some reason. I can't quite put my finger on why. Fluid is the only word that I can really use to describe how it feels. Combat is pretty much the same. However, you don't get as many tools in the field. I think you only get like 4 tools, which is fine, I suppose, but I really liked being able to use some of those tools in Spider-Man PS4, specifically ones that involved takedowns, like the trip mines. Oh, I miss the trip mines. I loved using those things in Spider-Man PS4. And speaking of which, as far as stealth mechanics goes, he didn't really have a whole lot. I think he had like one gadget that was really useful for when you were in stealth encounters. Because even on Spider-Man PS4, you had the impact webbing, which you could just use to immediately web someone to a wall. However, there's a big difference between Miles and Peter when it comes to stealth, because honestly, a trait I completely forgot until they showed it in the game. Miles can turn invisible, which is kind of nuts. It's a known power. That's not a story spoiler or anything. It's a known power that Miles has between that and his Venom attacks. The ability to just snap and become invisible in stealth encounters was honestly a little overpowered. Because before in Spider-Man PS4 with Peter, you have to actually escape the enemies and get out of their line of sight and then wait for them to calm down and stuff. But with Miles, you can just disappear like a ghost. It's fantastic. So a very brief overview of what the story is about. It is about an energy company called Roxxon, and they have this new technology that they are releasing, and the Tinkerer rises up with their gang called the Underground to try to take them down. I wasn't completely blown away by it, but I didn't need to be. The story was very nice from beginning, middle to end. The whole thing was a nice, good, solid story. Short, but sweet, as I'm sure this game has gotten. That's the word that people use to describe this game a lot, is short and sweet. But the ending didn't really make me super emotional compared to Spider-Man PS4's ending. But I was completely okay with that. In fact, actually, felt very uplifted there at the end. And it was a nice way to end the game. As far as emotional impact goes, I loved Miles' interaction with everybody, with Genki, his best friend, his mom, his friend Finn. The entire game, just all those interactions between those characters just felt incredibly genuine, and it was like I was watching a movie. One thing I actually noticed about Miles is that you can definitely tell that he is a younger Spider-Man because he gets his ass slapped around a lot. While he doesn't necessarily do any more losing than Peter, he definitely seems to get punished a little more. There's a couple moments in the game where I was like, wow, he is just really getting his ass beat. But I like that though, because that shows that he's a little more of an inexperienced superhero and he's still trying to get a hold of everything. Speaking of inexperienced, I mentioned this on Twitter forever ago, but I love Miles' swinging style. You can definitely tell that he's still he's confident with it, but he's still trying to get used to it. And it's a really neat itty bitty detail that they included in the game that I thought just completely added to his character, and it was great. Something else that was really enjoyable for me was I love how somehow Miles gets into the same types of situations as Peter and struggles as him, but they lead completely different lives. Like their lives are completely different from each other. I mean, of course, a couple of similarities, but for the most part, they're very much their own individual characters, but it's funny because they struggle with the same stuff, and it's funny to see how that was written into the story. Overall, my experience with Spider-Man Miles Morales was an enjoyable one. Definitely recommend picking this game up, especially if you enjoyed Spider-Man PS4. That of course goes without saying. I don't really think I need to say that. It's nice to see that Insomniac hit it out of the park again with another great Spider-Man title. Definitely looking forward to any other future Spider-Man games they release. Have you played this game? What did you think of it? Or if you haven't played it yet, do you plan to? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks so much for watching. Feel free to join our Discord. I have linked it down in the description below. I hope to see you again, but until then, I have been your host, Chrome Automatic, and I'll see you next time.